Okay, so we are now going to talk about rounding decimals, which is exercise 6b. So rounding involves approximating a decimal place to fewer decimal places. So let's look here for a second. So here's a question. What if I asked you to round 15.6327 to 2 decimal places? So what I'm saying there is I don't want you to give me 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. Instead, I only want you to give me 2 decimal places. So what you do in this example here is you cut it there. So see how I've now only got 2 decimal places? I've cut it. So I create this cut. Then you want to look at the number right before the cut. So that, in this case, 2. And then you're going to ask yourself the question, will this 2 round this 3 up or down? Now, this 2 here is what we call the critical number. So if the critical number or digit is less than 5, you round down. So less than 5 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If the critical number is or more than 5, you round up. So if the number is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you round up. Now, you're just going to have to see me do a whole bunch of examples of this, and then you'll get the swing of it. But you really need to pay attention. This is one of these ideas that in later years, you'll find this so easy. But right now, kids do find that this is sometimes a bit of a sticking point. You might be sitting here and like, I know how to do this, but make sure you do, because lots of people think they can do it and they actually can't. All right, let's go. First one, it says round to 1 decimal point. If I want to round to 1 decimal place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it here. Now, do you see how I've got 7.4? That's good. Now I'm going to ask myself the question, this critical digit here is 5, which means it rounds this 4 up. It rounds it up. So that means this is going to be 7.5. So because this number here is 5 and greater, it rounds this number up. So now it's 7.5 because 1 more to 4 is 5. Let's go to the next one. I cut it here. So now this is going to be 89 point. And again, because this number here, 7, is greater than 5, it rounds the 3 up by 1. So it becomes 4. We go again. We're rounding to 1 decimal place. So I cut it there. I now have 1 decimal place. So this is going to be 89 point. Now you look at the number here, the right number right before the cut. This number now is less than 5. So you round it down. Now people get confused with rounding it down because it sounds like you should subtract 1 from this number right here. But in fact, rounding down means you just leave it alone. 1 remains as 1. We go to the next one. We cut it there. So this is going to be 0 point. Now this 6 is greater than 5. So that means this 0 becomes a 1. We're adding 1 to it. And then again, last one here, we cut it there. So that means what we're going to end up with here. Now, this is an interesting one because if I'm to add 1 to this, if I was to add 1 to this, right? Because this 8 is greater than 5. So I need to add 1 to this 9. And that now is going to push this up as well. It's going to be 5.0. 5.0 there because this 9, if I add 1 to it, it becomes a 1 whole. So that 1 whole comes over there and it becomes 5.0. All right, let's now go through some more. Let's now round to 2 decimal places. So that means I now cut it there. And again, I ask myself, the number right before the cut, is it more or less than 5? It's less than 5. So you round it down. So you go 16.2, and this 5 stays as 5. Again, rounding to 2 decimal places, you cut it there. So this is going to be 9.24. This 6 is greater than 5, so this 3 becomes a 4. Again, 2 decimal places, you cut it there. This is going to become 35.68. Why? Because this 2 here is less than 5. So that means that this 8 stays where it is. You round it down, which means it stays where it is. You do it again. You cut it there. This is another interesting one because if I was to round, I'm going to have to round up, aren't I? This 7 is going to push this 9 up. And if I push this 9 up, it's going to become 1/10. So it's going to be 112.10 there. Then we go to the next one. I cut it there. This is another interesting one because if I add a 1 here, right, that means this is going to become 10. So that becomes 0. Then I push the 1 over here. Well, that now becomes 10. So it pushes the 1 over there. So this is going to end up being 56.00. That's what happens if you round that to 2 decimal places. You actually get 56.00. So that is definitely an interesting one there. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Again, people tend to struggle with this, so really make sure that you've got this under your belt. Really make sure of it. Now, we've got some more examples here. You might like to pause the video and see if you get it. And if you're not getting it, really listen to the instructions that I'm giving. All right, more examples. Round to 2 decimal places. Again, that means you're going to cut it there. So you've got 2 here. And then you're going to ask yourself the question, is 2 more or less than 5? It's less, so you round it down. So it's going to become 25.68. You go to the next one, round to 3 decimal places. Well, that means I would cut it there. So now I have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So now I'm going to say this 8 is greater than 5. So I round this 5 to 6. So it's going to be 13.546. Then we come to the next one. Round to 3 decimal places again. 1, 2, 3. I cut it there. 5, remember, rounds up. So it's going to be 18.348 because this 7 goes up by 1. Now it says round to the nearest whole. If you're rounding to the nearest whole, that means you're going to be looking at these numbers here, the one right before it. All right, the one right before your decimal. So if it's 7, that means it's greater than 5. So this is going to round to 2. If it's 4, that's less than 5. So it's going to round down to 23. If it's 5, that rounds up. So that means 7 is going to become an 8. And for this last one, 3 is less than 5. So 18 rounds down to 18. And that's it. That's how you do it. That is how you round. Make sure that you spend a lot of time on this and that you feel really comfortable. If you do not feel comfortable, speak to me. Make sure you do.